Welcome back to the Real Estate Rat Pack Radio Show with Chris, Joe, and Rob. The crew is taking your calls, so dial in at 1-800-808-5548.
And we're back. We're having a great time.
It takes hours of practice to get that down.
It does. It takes, you have to do the whole delay,
Yeah.
But, if you didn't talk to any of our great guests today, you can reach us at 800-808-5548. If you want to talk about sporulation or anything associated with the CF, what is it?
CFR? No, cigar residual funk.
Oh, yes. CRF. That is correct. So if you want to talk about any of that, we are here to take your calls live and have a good time, hopefully.
We were chatting with Michael when we went to break and stuff like that. So
yes,
tell us what's happening out there. I know you do a lot over in West University and Bel Air in that area. What's happening over there?
But before he does that, though, I want him to give a big shout-out to his coworker as well.
Oh, yeah, you got, yes.
Lisa. Yes, Lisa. Hi, Lisa.
There you go, Lisa. That's as good as you're going to get right now.
That's it.
No last name.
Well,
which for years was like the mythcal Lisa. Because,
that's right.
Never even knew she existed.
No one ever saw her. She was very much behind the scenes, and here recently she has been out more and more and breaking out of that shell, and has really talked to Chris, I think, more than anyone.
Yes, no, and great individual, by the way. I never forget when she was telling me, she goes, I have a working business partner, and his name is Michael Roddy. I'm like, excuse me, come again? I'm like, and you've been keeping her secret. Why? So, no, great individual, though. You guys make a great team.
Thank you.
So.
And, Rob, you were talking about West University and really most of the areas inside of the Loop. And just a quick observation from my part is that it seems like here in the last couple of months, the inventory has been increasing. So we are moving more towards what I think Ted Jones called a normal market. And what I mean by that is at one time I was up here and we were talking about absorption rates, et cetera, and it was about a 2.3 to a 2.5 or 6 months worth of inventory. And on my most recent data that I have, it's showing about a 5 to 5.5 month inventory now.
Market improvement.
And yes, but moving more towards a normal market. We are still in a seller's market as we talk right now, but I do think that it is moving more towards a normal market, which I think is good all the way around. And truly, I have not seen, this was a question that I had just the other day. They were asking me about values and have I seen a decline in overall value? And I have not. We still have that steady increase that we've had for quite some time in the value of homes. So even though it may take just a little bit longer now to sell a home because there is more inventory coming on the market, and we did just come out of a slower time of the year, meaning around the holidays.
Right.
So it may take just a little longer to sell the home. However, the value is not declining.
And I would tend to agree with you. The only areas that we see from an appraisal perspective, which is obviously the measurement of value right there, is in areas in which you still have multiple offers. They're bidding over a price of a property.
Yes.
And then that might not come in at an appraised value. Why? Because if you don't have everyone doing the same, if you don't have everything selling over the market value, you're not going to be able to get that true comparative market analysis that gives you that value. But I would agree with you, is traditionally speaking, everything that we've seen, we have been seeing it's been within the same area. I mean, it's been very steady. We haven't seen a lot of stuff come in way under. And most of the time, the stuff that you do see come in that misses value, it's going to miss value.
Right.
Very, very rarely do not know it's going to miss value.
And also, sellers are still, some of them are still of the mindset that we are in this ultra hot market and that they're just going to put their place on the market at the price that they want to.
Right.
And that it'll sell within a few days, and they're finding out that is not necessarily the case. Especially if you're inside of Loop 610.
No, I would agree.
This is true also in the suburbs. There's some areas that are still extremely active. Katy is one of them that has remained extremely active and extremely viable communities out there. And it's amazing as to how quickly the homes that are priced correctly in the market, that are ready for the market, they are still moving quickly and really haven't had much in the way of appraisal issues out there. But there are areas of town that have. You're absolutely right.
One of the things I would tell everybody is rates are at an all-time low still. You're still at that perfect storm. You have great inventory. You've got rates that are absolutely incredible. I'm going to put a big thing. I'm going to let all of our listeners know right now, if you have not evaluated your interest rate for a refinance, do so, especially if you can go down to a 15-year. More importantly, if you're in the market to look at buying a property, call Michael Roddy, obviously number one. But number two is know that right now rates are at an all-time low again. So it's that perfect time to get out there and to look. But I wanted to say one thing that Michael was saying. You were talking about the ultra-hot markets. Here's the situation I've been seeing recently with what's been going on. Individuals are selling their home and buying a new home.
Right.
And the buyer, the purchaser of the seller in this case, all of a sudden has issues. Might be they backed out because layoff, they back out because of relocate, whatever it might be. And so how are you advising individuals? Because I've been seeing a lot more of that. Individuals who are buying on contingency, and then those contracts are actually moving out of contract, unfortunately. How would you suggest people to get around, or more importantly, to cope with some of those things that are going on?
All right, now you're talking about from the seller side or from the buyer side?
Sort of both, right? Because you have a seller, who's selling their home, and they're also the buyer of a new property, and
Gotcha.
So it's that effect, that goes down. It's sort of that trickle effect that goes all the way downstream. So what ended up happening is they can't sell their home now. They're looking to buying a new home, and you have a seller of that home that they're trying to buy that now is affected by, so we're seeing a lot more of that trickle-down effect than we have because some of the changes going on.
Sure. And that's where it really does help to have an expert in real estate, realtors out there to assist you and to try to do their best to eliminate those situations from happening. Now, one of the things that we can do from a seller's point of view, especially if they are in a very active area, is not only do you have, for the seller, if you've got an initial contract, we are still getting multiple offers. Now, they may not all be above the list price. They may be at list price or close to it. But if you can strive to get a backup offer, along with that initial offer. If something happens to that initial offer, then you have a backup in place, and it moves to that number one position.
Gotcha.
So that helps to protect a seller. Now, as far as on the buy side, what would you say would be the things with a buyer if they were to have something come up, whether it's in their lives with a job, et cetera?
Right.
What would you say is the number one question there as far as protecting a buyer?
A lot of times on the buyer side, it's that trickle effect, right? So I think what you said is perfect on the fact that they're selling a home, have a backup offer, have a contingency, keep it option pending, continue to show.
Sure.
I think all that's important right there. On the buyer side, I tell everybody, my personal suggestion I tell everybody from a financing perspective is, number one, make sure you can qualify with both mortgages as a backup right there. That's number one. And if you can't, sometimes it's best to make sure that you go through the sales process, even if there's an interim move sometimes before you get into that new home, right?
I think that is absolutely wonderful advice. And one of the things you and I have been working on lately is getting people with you, getting a buyer with you very, very early on.
Yes.
To where you can run them through the entire process, not only pre-qualify them, but pre-approve them. And, we recently had a situation where I asked you if you could put something into your underwriting department and get me a answer back.
That is correct.
On, for a particular buyer and a particular property. And I think doing those things in advance, you've got a knowledgeable realtor, you have a very knowledgeable lender, and working together, I think you can help to eliminate the issues that may come up on a buyer side and certainly on a seller side. I
would thoroughly agree. It's one of those things is a lot of times that little bit of additional information is a huge difference. In this case, we need to look and see there was a property that you and I were looking at for a mutual client. And, your concern, which was actually validated, was we didn't think it was going to make the value, and putting a contract in it for a client who can't make up that difference was just not something to do at that point.
Sure.
And so, it saved you from going out putting a contract in place. It saved the client from going out there and getting their expectations up about buying a piece of property that we'd have to come back in and say, you can't afford it, based upon the requirements with appraisal, et cetera, et cetera. So, there's a lot of stuff like that I absolutely agree. Getting with the right person, as we talk about all the time, getting with a professional, thus you, me, somebody on this show, is extremely important, because that can be the difference between you going through and having an incredible time in the real estate, experience, or going through it and saying, I never want to do that again.
Exactly. And one of our goals as realtors and you as a lender is you want to make sure that the client has a pleasurable experience. We try to make it a happy time for them moving into a new house. In a lot of cases, it's their very first home.
Right.
So you try to make it an enjoyable experience instead of one that is full of stress.
Oh, I would thoroughly agree. And there's enough stress out there already,
There
right?
is. And so we do a lot in the background to do our best to assure that they do have a pleasurable experience with it.
Yes.
Now, you were talking about interest rates. And one of my questions is, I've heard, as most of our listeners have, I'm sure, I've heard about interest rates starting to inch up. So I think right now is an outstanding time to buy.
Right.
But they're moving around slightly. Any foresight as to where interest rates may be going over the next several months?
Well, my crystal ball tells me. No, I'm just joking. Now, one of the things, yeah, exactly, right? Yeah. No, but
apply now.
One of the things that's happened is our U.S. government has really kept rates in check. I mean, it's one of the things we know. We've really been on a money and currency and interest rate control system for a long time now. Ever since 2008, we've really been under that system. What the government wants to eventually do is release that and stop artificially maintaining rates, right? The problem that I think that they're going to have is the second they do that, they're going to spike up, right? And so what we have to do right now is, they're trying to make the market take over slowly but surely and not artificially control them. But one of the things that is happening is we're seeing these volatility periods. We're seeing that interest rates all of a sudden become really good, and then for a week or 2 weeks they go up quite a bit, and then they come back down. I suggest to all clients is remember one thing. Just because the interest rate went from a 3.875 to a 4.25 is not the end of the world, by the way. It's still an excellent interest rate.
It is, absolutely.
It still is really good. Now, today, rates are in the threes. I mean, they're in the mid, they're probably in 2.8 for a 15-year on average. They're probably about 3.75 for a 30-year on average. So they're great right now. But if they do up to 4 or 4.25, it's not the end of the world. It's something that we eventually have to see. And what we are going to see by the end of this year, rates have no choice. And I've been saying this for years now, by the way, and Rob's laughing at me because I'm always saying this.
Well,
but they have no choice but to move up.
The Michael and Chris show, or the Michael and Chris corner over here.
Yeah. So, y'all hang out there. Don't worry. We'll talk about everything. So, we are coming up against a break, though. I've got Ashley looking at me going, get off the mic. I've got to go to a break. So, we got no choice.
Plus, it looks awkward.
That is correct. It does look awkward. So, stay tuned. We're going on a break. We'll be right back.
Yours and yours alone. I'm here to tell you, honey.